Hey everyone, welcome back to Red Tone Studio. I'm your host today, Red. And today we're diving into something that I've been working a lot on lately, building up my outboard gear in this hybrid studio setup. Now I know many of you are familiar with the power of plugins, but there's just something special about the real thing. In this video, I'm going to explain why outboard gear is still super important, especially when you're running a hybrid studio like mine. And I'll specifically talk about some of the gear that I have here in my setup. Things like the WA273, the Cappy VP312s, and the Lin 76. So let's get into it. First off, let's talk about what a hybrid studio is. As the name implies, it's a mix of digital and analog gear. You're using your computer and your DAW for a majority of the work, but you're also integrating physical outboard hardware that bring an extra layer of depth and character. You really get the best of both worlds, the precision and convenience of digital combined with the warmth and the unique characteristics of all the analog gear. Now, why would you want to go this route? Well, it's about having that tactile control, the creative flexibility, and let's be honest, the sound. Outboard gear, when used correctly, can help you shape a sound that plugins alone can't quite match, at least in my opinion. Let me know in the comments if you agree. So now let me walk you through the gear I'm using and why it's important in my hybrid setup. First up, we've got the WA273 from Warm Audio. This preamp sounds great and is a completely different animal than those in my Q16 interface. It's based on the classic Neve 1073 design, and it adds that rich, warm character that you just can't get from a plugin. At least I can't anyways. When I'm recording vocals or guitars, I love running them through the WA273. It adds a beautiful harmonic saturation that gives the sound more presence and body. Plus, it's got that iconic Neve sound, the kind of color that makes everything sound more full and musical, especially when pushed just a little bit harder. There's just something about dialing in those analog tones that makes the process more intuitive and, of course, rewarding. Next, we've got the Cappy VP312s that I built recently. As usual, you can find that video somewhere over here. These, like all the Cappy stuff, are really underrated gems of the world of analog preamps. It's got a very different vibe than the WA273, offering a bit more clarity and punch, and it's also a discrete transformer-based preamp, so it works great on everything from drums to vocals. The VP312 is transparent, but it still adds a touch of warmth and color that makes your recording stand out, again, especially when pushed. It's that perfect middle ground between clean and colored. Now, moving on to the RNP. This one is the Real Nice preamp, and it does exactly what the name suggests. It's an incredibly clean preamp that lets your source material shine without adding too much color. Sometimes you just want the sound to be as true to the original as possible, and the RNP really excels at that. Whether I'm recording acoustic instruments or delicate vocals, this preamp delivers transparency and detail, and it's got headroom that allows for natural dynamic range. Recently though, this, along with the Art preamp above it, have been moved to the back burner. Now these are more used for drum overheads or utility preamps when I need more 48-volt phantom power sources. Now let's talk about compressors. I've got two awesome units here, the RNC, or Real Nice compressor, and the Lin 76. Both are amazing in their own right, but they each bring something different to the table. The RNC is super transparent, and it can tighten up tracks without squashing the life out of them. If I'm working on something where I want to keep the dynamics intact, but just needs a little bit of control, the RNC is my go-to. It's clean, it's smooth, and it's great for things like vocals, bass, or anything that needs a bit of subtle glue. It can also be tied together and used on your mix bus. And finally, the very affordable Lin 76. This one, of course, is inspired by the famous 1176 and is known for its aggressive, fast compression. It's got that punchy, in-your-face vibe that really helps things pop. I use it all the time on drums, vocals, and even bass when I want to really make it stand out. The Lin 76 is perfect for bringing energy to a track, and it adds that vibe that plugins can't replace. I'd love to get a real 1176 into the studio and do a shootout. Maybe someday I'll get that chance. So why does all this outboard gear matter? Well, for me, it's about the character and the creativity it brings. You can always track in the box, but there's something about running signals through analog gear that just sounds more alive. When you have these pieces in your chain, they shape the sound in ways that digital plugins often can't. It's the difference between something feeling flat and lifeless versus something with depth, warmth, and personality. Also, I'm able to do this so much quicker as they become more set and forget thing, and then once they are imprinted on a track, it's done. No endless tweaking, so it really speeds up the workflow. What I love about having the hybrid setup is the flexibility it gives me. I can use the outboard gear to get exactly the sound I want while still taking advantage of the digital workflow and convenience. It's really the best of both worlds. And now in a world that's increasingly dominated by digital tools, outboard gear in a hybrid studio gives you that really personal touch. It's hands-on, it's real, and it's a way to infuse your recordings with something truly unique. When you work with analog gear, you're not just making music, you're shaping it with your own hands, experiencing the different sounds, and using gear that's often built to last for decades. Speaking of which, each one of these pieces has value in the used market. Of course, some more than others. I can sell these on, say, Facebook Marketplace and upgrade if needed. It's really hard to do that with a plugin. So to sum up, that is why outboard gear is so important in my hybrid setup. It's about getting that tactile experience and capturing those beautiful nuances that only analog gear can provide. If you're running a hybrid studio, or even just thinking about it, having these pieces of gear really helps take your sound to the next level. If you've enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell down there for notifications. And of course, leave a comment if you have any questions about these pieces of gear or how to incorporate more analog into your own setup. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next one.